Welcome to this introduction to MEDDPICC for B2B tech sales. Today, we're covering this powerful framework that can dramatically improve your win rates in tech sales. Now, a quick overview of this agenda and some housekeeping rules. The first half is really about the what and the why. What is MEDDPICC and why is it used specifically in cloud and SaaS and AI sales? And the other half of the agenda is really focused on applying MEDDPICC principles to real-world scenarios and opportunities. So let's get into it. Now, anyone who spent any time working in sales knows that the biggest challenge in tech, or really any other industry for that matter, is building and converting a consistent, qualified pipeline. There are so many bases to cover and so little time to do it in, from generating the initial lead to conducting the discovery, going through the evaluation process for your proposals, managing all the stakeholder relationships, both internal as well as external, and then working with the decision makers to get a decision in your favor while keeping the competition at bay. So much to do, so little time to do it in. And that's why MEDDPICC has proven itself to be a sales framework which is foundational to getting those tech wins. It's also a very widely used framework in the tech industry because inherently tech sales are complex, and because MEDDPICC provides a structured qualification and client engagement process for salespeople. So let's break it down. M is for metrics. These are the quantifiable, manageable, impactful, and scalable KPIs that you will need to demonstrate to your clients so they can measure the impact of your solution. For example, technical evaluators will often measure your solution's KPIs to make processes more efficient in their organization, while economic buyers might measure your solution's impact in terms of cost savings or revenue. These business metrics are business-centric metrics, right? So essentially, they are the ones that make an impact to the business's ongoing operations. And for that matter, it's important that you tailor your KPIs according to your client's business needs as well as their specific priorities, because clearly not everyone values the same things. Now, I'd like for you to consider this scenario around identifying metrics. Let's say that you're selling AI software to a retail business, and they want to grow their online sales. So this could be a grocery store looking to expand online, or it could be an electronics store looking to expand online, or it could be a clothing store looking to expand their existing online operations. How would you go about presenting your business metrics to businesses that are looking for AI software or an AI solution that would help them grow? What are those metrics that you think would make sense to a business looking for that kind of solution? Most likely, you can think of revenue growth. You can think of things like employee engagement. You can think of things like process time, the time it takes to get things done. And of course, you can think of cost of sale or cost of service or servicing the customer. All of those are meaningful business metrics that align with buyer goals of expanding businesses online. Now, E is for economic buyer. And this is where most salespeople will end up spending their time, i.e., finding and creating access to the decision makers who own the budget and the authority to make or break your deal. So essentially, an economic buyer has the final say on the purchase. And so they control the budget. They may not own the budget, but they certainly control the budget and determine whether it's worth spending that money on your solution or indeed on any solution. They are essentially approvers in the solution selection process or the procurement process, and they evaluate or assess the potential risks associated with the purchase to the organization. Unfortunately, there are often gatekeepers that can limit your access to economic buyers. At other times, decision makers can change suddenly during a sales cycle. So it's vital to build relationships across the organization. One connection is simply not enough. For instance, for a CRM solution, the economic buyer is often the head of sales operations or the CEO, him or herself. On the other hand, for an ERP solution, the economic buyer is often the CFO or the head of finance. The D, or rather the first D in MEDDPICC, represents the decision criteria. And this includes factors like price, functionality, or even reputation. Often it's a combination of technical and non-technical factors. So it's important to use your discovery skills to uncover all of the factors driving your client's ultimate decision. These could be budget constraints. This could be timing issues. It could be definitely functionality to solve the core problem. It could be scalability, the ability to grow with the business in the future. Or it could be implementation timeframe, the time in which they need a certain solution to be in the ground. The questions that typically you can ask your clients to uncover their evaluation criteria often range around all of these factors. And a good discovery should yield enough information for you to be able to assess and capture the various decision criteria. Now, just to build on this idea of the decision criteria, I've broken it up into two further categories: explicit criteria and implicit criteria. Explicit criteria is these clearly stated requirements that the prospect has openly communicated to you and indeed to your competitors. Their needs are specific and easy to address directly, right? But implicit criteria are these unstated requirements or needs. They're not directly or overtly communicated to you, and these needs are all often inferred from the various challenges or the business context that you've picked up from the organization, from your discovery. So while explicit needs are easier to address, recognizing implicit needs helps build a much stronger connection by addressing broader goals and longer-term value. This often requires active listening to build a deeper understanding of your prospect's business context. Now, here's a few examples, or a couple of examples of implicit versus explicit criteria. So when you read through these examples, ask yourselves whether you think these are explicit criteria or implicit criteria, or both. It's a really good and powerful way of practicing how to recognize the different types of statements, different types of information that you're receiving from your prospect. Now, the second D in MEDDPICC is for the decision process. And this consists of the internal steps that the client needs to complete to procure your cloud or AI-based solution. Mapping out the decision process early minimizes surprises. And key questions that you would want to uncover include: who approves, what steps are involved, and when does the project need to be completed. This isn't always straightforward, though, especially in large enterprises where the process can be complex. In SMB, it'll be more informal, but you still have to be prepared for the unexpected. Now, the P in MEDDPICC represents the paper process, or the internal paperwork and approval stages involved in reaching a decision for procuring your solution or any solution. Common stages in a paper process include a set of technical requirements that are either advertised in an RFP or shared with you over an email or communicated in some other fashion, and leads to an evaluation of your proposal and indeed multiple proposals, followed by, in some cases, a business case analysis, especially in public sector, where they perform a cost-benefit analysis, a what-if analysis, a variance analysis. And based on that analytical work, they then put down or write down a set of recommendations for the approvers to consider. Once approved, that process then moves to a legal review and a legal contract, hopefully, in most cases. Now, in large organizations, this process can be a major hurdle and can take a lot of time. In smaller businesses, though, the paper process moves much faster. But again, is often less structured, adding uncertainty to how your deal might close. So think of a scenario where you're on the verge of closing a SaaS deal, but the paper process is delayed due to legal review, right? So you were expecting the legal contract to be signed off last week. You're now 1 week past the date that you told your manager that you would have the contract in hand, and it's still stuck in legal review. Identify what strategies could have helped you avoid or better plan for this challenge to keep the deal on track. The I in MEDDPICC stands for identifying pain, and the emphasis here is purposely on identifying, which is the verb, which is the activity, the action of actually uncovering the pain or the root cause of your client's challenges, and typically goes beyond just features and functionality that they might have asked for. Common pain points to look out for include a lot of manual processes, for instance, and typically that's what you'll find in SMBs, right? For enterprises, it's usually about losing market share or wanting to gain market share or improving product quality, but struggling to do so. The reality is there's always more than one pain to solve for, but successful salespeople can find the one that has real urgency behind it. Now, again, I'd like you to think of your sales experience and the kind of pain points that you have come across in the type of organizations or clients that you have worked with, and jot down a few of these pain points and how it affected the urgency or timing of the deal. Just to build on this concept, extremely important concept of identifying pain, I'd like to share another scenario, which is quite common in the tech space. So in this scenario, a prospect has expressed frustration with high data center costs or increasing data center costs. And I'd love for you to brainstorm some probing questions that you can use to discover the root cause of why they're experiencing these increasing costs. And remember, the focus here is to come up with questions that help you identify both the need and the urgency. So some of the questions that I typically present to prospects with such a challenge is, firstly, how are they managing the issue currently? Have they experienced this problem recently, or has it always been there in the past? Have they tried to solve for this problem? And if they have, what were the results, right? And then what kind of support or solution do they think would make a real difference to solve this problem, right? So those are the type of questions, open-ended and inquisitive, curious questions that I would want to ask the prospect. And I'd love for you to also jot down some of the questions that you think would be important to uncover both the need and the urgency. On this slide, I'm talking about the last two letters in MEDDPICC, which is champions and competition, and both extremely important to how MEDDPICC helps you qualify and engage clients. The first C represents having a champion on the inside, somebody who can openly advocate for your solution. Because if you don't have a champion in a cloud or SaaS sales opportunity, it becomes much harder to overcome internal resistance from competing interests or priorities. The second C represents the competition, which is inevitable in every new sales opportunity. Always assume that your competitors know your weaknesses. So the real question is, if you know theirs, focus on your competitive strengths and always show how your solution uniquely addresses your client's challenges. Now let's look at both of these in a bit more detail. Now you're not going to walk into a new client in a new opportunity and automatically find a champion waiting there for you. So you're going to have to build or cultivate a champion. But you want to cultivate the right persona, right? So you have to find that persona in the organization, somebody who has the ability to influence decision-making, somebody who has the ability to openly advocate for a solution, yours or somebody else's, and somebody with whom you can engage and align with on mutual objectives, right? So it's a win-win-win for the organization, for the champion, and for yourselves. And typically it starts out by providing champions the tools, the resources, and the information to effectively understand and support your solution internally. Now, on this slide, I've got, again, two scenarios for you to work through. On the left-hand side, I'm asking the question, what is the primary role of a champion, right? So I'd love for you to go through these four options and choose the best option that you think answers the question, what is the primary role of a champion? Is it to evaluate the technical merits of your solution? Is it to advocate for your solution within the organization? Or is it to provide insights into the prospects or into the organization's internal decision-making process? Or in fact, is it just to negotiate the final terms of the deal? If you pick two, then this would be the closest answer to the question, what is the primary role of a champion, which is in fact to understand and then advocate openly for your solution within the organization. Now, on the right-hand side, I've got another scenario, and the question in this scenario being asked is, what is the key difference between a champion and a coach? Because you need both in an opportunity, and you often have both in an organization. Is it that a champion provides internal guidance while a coach advocates for your solution? Is it that a champion focuses on the price while a coach focuses on the product's value? Or is it that a champion is always an external advisor while a coach is internal? Or finally, is it that a champion supports your solution while a coach offers internal guidance? Now, if you pick number 4, then that would be the closest answer to the question, what is the key difference between a champion and a coach? And often, to identify a champion from a coach, you can ask yourself the question, who would benefit most from your solution? And do they hold influence over decision-making processes? And can they communicate your solution's value openly to the rest of the organization? Now, the second C in MEDDPICC is really around competition. And we've already spoken about internal competition. This is where essentially opportunities are lost to either no decision, no budget, or no urgency. But in this particular case, we're talking about external competition, right? And this is really where the value of MEDDPICC really comes out, right? You can use MEDDPICC really to uncover and deal with both kinds of competition. Early on, it's the internal competition, and later on, it's the external competition. And what it starts out with is the competitive landscape in the organization, in the opportunity. By understanding your competitors, by researching their offerings, understanding their pricing models, if available, and the target market that they play in. Or are they looking to play outside of their comfort zone? All so that you can identify gaps to be able to position against. Typically, you want to lead with your unique value proposition. You know, what makes your solution superior, or in terms of business metrics, in terms of technical performance, in terms of supportability, maintainability. But typically, this is an area where your competitor will plant or seed objections around your solution, around your proposal. So you have to be able to manage those objections. Now, some common objections that you can expect to encounter in a tech sale are around price. So your prospect may say, your competitor offers a lower price. Or perhaps that they say, we're satisfied with our current vendors, thank you very much. Or that your competitor has been in the market longer than you, and so they have a greater trust factor, a lower risk, perceived risk. Or that your solution meets the requirements today, but doesn't offer the kind of features that they might need in the future. So it's important for you to be able to acknowledge your prospect's concerns, while then using one or more established objection handling techniques to manage the objection and get past the objection. Turn that objection into a maybe and then into a yes. So does MEDDPICC work? Absolutely, because it brings clarity to complex sales cycles that are inherent in cloud, AI, and SaaS B2B sales. And it transforms how you qualify and win deals. But it does require consistent effort, ongoing coaching, and a willingness to adapt. So if you want to learn how to apply MEDDPICC to improve your sales qualification and client engagement, we're offering a full-day course to help salespeople implement MEDDPICC with lots of role plays and coaching on conducting discovery, building bold proposals, and managing objections. So feel free to reach out via email or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Please like and subscribe to enjoy more videos from Sales Enablers.